Hey, shalom, 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 everyone. My name is YAHAWAH, and I'm coming back with another lesson prophesying the downfall of Babylon, aka America, home where all the gross abomination occurred. So before we start, I asked myself, is Jake a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? Yeah, it is. All right. So let's go into this thing. Let me see where we was at. Before we start, let's do this. The fair use. Hold on, let me get it right here. Fair use under the copyright statute of 1976.
Fair use, established by the Copyright Act of 1976 in Section 107, allows limited use of copyrighted material for things like criticism, teaching, and research. It balances creators' rights with public access through a case-by-case analysis based on the use's purpose, the nature of the work, the amount used, and the effect on the market.
Okay, so I'm not getting paid for this. Okay, let's go.
Are you guys here for the halftime show?
Oh, no. We're here to help people customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
So that's why the evening.
Stage 5 is social decay.
I'm gonna start over.
There's a pattern in history that has destroyed 3 global superpowers in the last 500 years. And right now in 2025, the United States is following that exact same pattern stage by stage, decision by decision, almost like we're reading from the same script that led to catastrophe every single time before. In 1590, Spain was the richest empire on earth. They controlled half the world's gold and silver. Their military dominated Europe. Their currency was accepted everywhere. Within 80 years, they were bankrupt. A second-rate power that never recovered. In 1914, Britain ruled the largest empire in human history. The sun never set on British territory. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Within 40 years, the empire was gone. The currency collapsed. They became America's junior partner. In 1991, the Soviet Union was the other superpower. Nuclear weapons, global influence, satellites spanning the globe. It ceased to exist in 900 days, not from war, but from economic implosion. 3 times. 3 superpowers. 3 complete collapses, all following the exact same sequence. And here's what should terrify you. The United States has already completed 5 of the 7 stages. We're not approaching the pattern, we're deep inside it. This is the story of how empires die, why they always think they're different, and why the math says that the United States is next. And it's happening faster than anyone wants to admit. Before we go through the pattern, you need to understand what imperial collapse actually looks like. Not in textbooks, but in practice. What it means when a superpower dies. Imperial collapse doesn't start with invasion or military defeat. It starts with economic exhaustion. The empire extends beyond its ability to maintain itself. Military bases in 150 countries, wars on multiple fronts, promises it cannot keep, debts it cannot repay. At first, the decline is invisible. The currency still works, the military still wins battles, the government still makes promises. But beneath the surface, the foundation is cracking, resources are misallocated, productive capacity shrinks, the best and brightest people leave, and then comes the acceleration. Allies start hedging, enemies test boundaries, trade partners seek alternatives, the reserve currency status erodes, and suddenly the advantages that made you powerful become vulnerabilities. Your currency once demanded by everyone comes flooding back home. Your military spread across the world becomes unsustainable. Your promises once guaranteed by strength become empty words. That's not theoretical. That's what happened to Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. And it happened because they made exactly the same decisions that America is making now. They believed their power was was permanent. They overextended militarily, they debased their currency, and they refused to accept reality until collapse was already underway. Let's look at how it actually happened 3 times the exact same way. Let's start with the first global empire, Spain, from the 1500s to the 1600s. After Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492, Spain became the first true world power. They conquered the Aztec and Inca empires, seized control of the richest gold and silver mines ever discovered. By 1550, Spanish ships were bringing home 200 tons of silver per year. By 1600, over 400 tons annually. Spain controlled the money supply of Europe. The Spanish reals was the global reserve currency. Everyone wanted Spanish silver, and this is where the pattern begins with a country that controls the money of the world and believes that it makes them invincible. King Philip II, who ruled from 1556 to 1598, had more money than any monarch in history, and he spent it on empire. Stage 1 is military overextension. Spain fought wars everywhere, simultaneously against the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean, against France and Italy, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, against England's navy, wars in the Philippines and wars in the Americas. By 1580, Spain had military commitments on 4 continents. The cost was staggering. Half of Spain's revenue went to the military, and still it wasn't enough. Stage 2 is currency debasement. The Spanish crown couldn't pay its bills with taxes alone, so they did what every failing empire does. They debased the currency. They started mixing copper into silver coins. A coin that was supposed to be pure silver became 50% copper, then 75% copper. The face value stayed the same, but the real value plummeted. By 1600, Spanish silver coins contained barely any silver. Merchants stopped accepting them at face value. Inflation exploded. Stage 3 is debt spiral. Spain borrowed constantly from Italian bankers, from German bankers, from anyone who would lend. By 1557, less than 20 years into Philip's reign, Spain declared bankruptcy. They defaulted on their debts, restructured, and kept borrowing. They declared bankruptcy again in 1560, again in 1575, again in 1596. 4 bankruptcies in 40 years. Each time they promised reforms. Each time they went right back to borrowing and spending. Stage 4 is loss of productive capacity. Here's what people don't understand about Spain's collapse. They had all the gold and silver in the world, and it destroyed them, because when you have unlimited money, you stop producing. Why grow food when you can import it? Why build ships when you can buy them? Why innovate when you can just spend? Spanish nobility considered every work beneath them. As a result, manufacturing declined and agriculture stagnated. All the wealth flowed to importing goods from other countries. The gold and silver that came from the Americas went straight back out to pay for French wine, Italian silk, and Dutch goods. Spain became a conduit. Wealth flowed through them, but none of it stayed. By 1600, Spain was producing almost nothing. They were entirely dependent on imports, entirely dependent on silver to pay for everything. And when the silver mines began to deplete, when production dropped, the entire system collapsed. Stage 5 is social decay. With a failing economy, crime exploded. Beggars filled the streets of Madrid. Productive citizens immigrated. The best minds left for France, England, and the Netherlands. The countries that were building, creating, and growing. Spain was left with bureaucrats, soldiers, and priests. No one was creating wealth. Everyone was consuming it. By 1640, Spain lost Portugal. By 1650, they lost the Netherlands, their richest territory. And by 1700, the Spanish Empire was a shell, still large on paper, but economically dead. They went from the world's superpower to a secondary power in less than a century, and they never recovered. Spain today is a regional European country, pleasant, cultured, but irrelevant on the world stage. The descendants of the conquistadors are a tourist destination. That's what imperial collapse looks like. Let's jump forward 300 years. It's Britain in the 1900s, the empire where the sun never set. At its peak, Britain controlled 25% of the world's land surface, 400 million subjects. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Every major trade contract was denominated in pounds. Every central bank held British bonds. London was the financial centre of the world. And just like Spain 300 years earlier, they believed it was permanent, but they were already following the pattern. Stage 1, the military overextension. By 1900, Britain had military commitments everywhere. India, Africa, the Middle East, China, the Pacific, the Caribbean. They had to defend territory on 6 continents. The cost was enormous. And when World War I started in 1914, Britain faced a choice. Stay neutral and let Europe destroy itself, or jump in and bankrupt the empire to win. They chose to fight. World War I cost Britain over $40 billion. That's $1 trillion in today's money. They borrowed from everyone, mostly from the United States. By 1918, Britain owed America billions. The creditor had become the debtor, but they'd won the war. They kept the empire. They thought they could rebuild, but they were wrong. Stage 2, currency debasement. The The pound sterling was supposed to be backed by gold, but the war had drained Britain's gold reserves. They'd shipped gold to America to pay for weapons, food, supplies. By 1920, Britain's gold reserves were half what they had been in 1914, but they tried to maintain the pound's value anyway. They went back on the gold standard at the pre-war rate in 1925. The problem was that the pound was overvalued. British exports became too expensive. Manufacturing declined, unemployment rose, and the government had to keep interest rates high to defend the currency. This destroyed the domestic economy. By 1931, they couldn't hold it anymore. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The pound lost 25% of its value overnight. Stage 3, the debt spiral. Britain never recovered from World War I debt, and then World War II started. Another $120 billion in costs, more borrowing from America. By 1945, Britain owed the United States and Canada over $30 billion more than Britain's entire GDP. The war was won, but the empire was finished. They couldn't defend it anymore, couldn't afford it, couldn't maintain it. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1947, Britain gave up India, the crown jewel, and the source of wealth for 200 years gone. Over the next 20 years, they lost everything: Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean. By 1970, the British Empire existed only in history books. Stage 5, the currency collapse. The pound kept falling. In 1940, £1 equaled $403. By 1950, $280. By 1970, $240. By 1980, £2 equaled 30, and today it's fallen to £27. The global reserve currency became a regional currency. Britain tried to maintain permanent seat on the UN Security Council, nuclear weapons, special relationship with America. But everyone knew the truth. They were a former power, a museum of what used to be great. The empire was gone and it never came back. Now let's look at the most recent example, the Soviet Union, which ruled from 1945 to 1991. After World War II, the USSR emerged as a superpower. They had nuclear weapons, massive military control over Eastern Europe, satellites in space, and they believed they were the future, and communism would bury capitalism and the Soviet model would dominate. For 45 years, they competed with America, matched USA militarily, built more tanks, more missiles, more troops, but beneath the surface, the economy was dying. Stage 1, the military overextension. The Soviet Union spent 15 to 20% of GDP on the military. That's triple of what America spent. They had to match American technology, American reach, American alliances. They were in Afghanistan, propping up Cuba, supporting Syria, Vietnam, North Korea, Angola, Ethiopia. Everywhere America had influence, they had to counter. The cost was unsustainable. Stage 2, the economic stagnation. The Soviet economy stopped growing in the 1970s. Oil revenue kept them afloat, but nothing else worked. Factories produced junk, farms failed, technology fell decades behind. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was importing grain. A country with some of the best farmland on earth couldn't feed itself. Why? Because central planning doesn't work, because innovation dies under control, because no one produces when there's no incentive.
That's Lee Rayburn. Lee Rayburn. Now and again, he gets in over his head.
Central planning doesn't work, because innovation dies under control, because no one produces when there's no incentive. Stage 3, currency collapsed. The ruble was never a real currency. It couldn't be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens didn't trust it. They used dollars when they could get them. The government had to buy foreign goods with gold and oil because nobody wanted rubles. By 1985, oil prices dropped. Soviet gold reserves were depleting. They were running out of real money. Stage 4, the loss of empire. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Eastern Europe left. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, East Germany, all gone in a year. The satellites that gave the Soviet Union strategic depth vanished. The Soviet government couldn't stop it, and they were broke. Stage 5, the complete collapse. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. 900 days from Berlin Wall to complete dissolution. No war, no invasion, just economic implosion. The military couldn't be paid. The government couldn't function. The ruble became worthless. A superpower with 30,000 nuclear weapons collapsed from internal economic failure. The pattern played out again: overextension, currency failure, debt, loss of empire, and finally collapse. And here's what should keep you awake at night. The United States is following the exact same pattern stage by stage. Let me show you how. Stage 1, the military overextension. The United States has over 750 military bases in 80 countries. It has troops in 150 countries. It is committed to defending Europe through NATO, defending Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Philippines, fighting in the Middle East, countering China, countering Russia. Its military budget is $850 billion annually, more than the next 10 countries combined. But the equipment is aging, recruitment is down, and USA has commitments it cannot fulfill. If China invades Taiwan, if Russia pushes into NATO territory, if Iran closes the Persian Gulf, it cannot respond to all of it simultaneously. USA is overextended, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the USSR. Stage 2, the currency debasement. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. The dollar became pure fiat currency. Since 2000, the money supply has increased 400%. Since 2020, USA has printed over $6 trillion. The dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971. USA is not mixing copper into silver coins. It is just printing unlimited paper. The mechanism is different, but the result is the same. Stage 3, the debt spiral. The United States owes $36 trillion, and that's 120% of the GDP. Interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion per year. It is spending more on interest than on defense. The economy runs deficits every year, $1.8 trillion in 2024 in a growing economy. During peacetime, it borrows to pay interest on previous borrowing. That's the definition of a debt spiral. Spain defaulted 4 times. Britain borrowed until it collapsed. The USSR ran out of money. America is on the same path. Stage 4, the loss of productive capacity. America doesn't make things anymore. It designs, finance, and consumes, but don't produce. Its manufacturing base has been gutted, shipped to China, Mexico, and Vietnam. USA imports $800 billion more than it exports annually. It is dependent on foreign supply chains for everything: medicine, electronics, steel, even military components. Just like Spain became dependent on imports while the silver flowed out, USA is dependent on imports while dollars flow out. Stage 5, social decay. Trust in institutions is at all-time lows. Crime is rising. Homelessness is exploding. Drug overdoses kills 100,000 Americans annually. The best and brightest are leaving or checking out. Fertility rates are collapsing. Political dysfunction is total. We Americans can't agree on anything, can't fix anything, can't build anything. The signs of decay are everywhere, but everyone pretends it's fine. It's not fine. We're on stage 5 of 7. The Soviet Union made it to stage 5 before complete collapse. So did Britain. Spain lasted longer, but the pattern is the same. We're not at the end yet, but we're deep into the sequence. Stage 6 is loss of reserve currency status. That's when allies start diversifying. When trade moves to other currencies. When the dollar comes flooding back home because no one needs to hold it anymore. And we're seeing early signs. BRICS nations are developing alternatives. Central banks are buying gold. China and Russia are trading in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil. The cracks are forming. Stage 7 is total collapse. Not gradual decline, sudden implosion. The Soviet Union went from superpower to non-existent in 900 days. Britain lost the empire in 20 years. Spain took longer, but the result was the same. When the reserve currency fails, when the debt becomes impossible, when the military can't be funded, it doesn't decline gracefully. It collapses quickly, brutally. And everyone who thought it couldn't happen here learns the same lesson every empire learns. It can, and it does. 3 empires followed this pattern: Spain, Britain, the USSR. Each believed they were exceptional. Each believed they were different. Each believed the rules didn't apply to them, or they were wrong every single time. The pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. The pattern is mathematical. You cannot spend beyond your means forever. You cannot maintain empire without productive capacity. You cannot debase your currency without consequences. You cannot avoid stage 6 and 7 once you've completed 1 through 5. The sequence is locked in. The only question is timing. Maybe America has 10 years, maybe 5, or maybe less. But the pattern says that the collapse is coming. And when it comes, it won't be slow. It'll be sudden. Do subscribe to the channel if this opened your eyes. See you in another video. Take care.
I'm Stephanie, actor and Walmart Plus member.
I'm her body double, and I have Prime.
Walmart Plus has never raised the cost of membership.
My membership cost has gone up!
Just because membership's looking like doesn't mean they say.
So, yeah, it's pretty great to go down, man. America's on life support. Like I said, is Jake a homeborn slave? You know, they act like it, scared and shit, you know, and, you know, trying to say this devil. Man, the Lord, if I'm ready to deal with this man. This man trying to escape captivity, man. Okay. Let's start here at Revelation chapter 13. Let's get Revelation chapter 13 real quick. Revelation chapter 13 verses 9. It said, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He, say what? He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience of the faith, and the faith of the saints. Hey, you know, the Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans is the saints. So we just got to be patient, man, and you know, hold our peace and sit still and watch the hand of the Lord. Not being out there protesting and coming up against these dudes, these fucking ICE agents, man. Let the Lord deal with these people, man. Because you out there protesting, man, you going against the Lord, man. Okay? So yeah, the Lord finna deal with them, man, real soon. It says, so this is a call for discernment for the elect, the hopefully elect, man. We got to be discerning, you know, in what's going on and what's around our surroundings or whatever. It says, this is the call for to discernment for the elect. Ear symbolizes spiritual perception, not just hearing. It said only those attentive to YAHAWAH's truth will recognize deception, and many will follow blindly without listening. See, and that's what you're seeing, man. A lot of our people that, you know, following these people blindly, and they getting judged. Okay. It said only those attentive to YAHAWAH's truth will recognize deception. See, hey, you know, starting with the elder apostles and the bishops and like-minded men on down to myself, man, we being attentive to the Lord's will and his truth, you know. Many will follow blindly without listening. Obedience requires both hearing and understanding. See, you know, you got to understand what time we living in, man. We at the end of this man reign of terror. So they're gonna go out, his kingdom going out violently. And this is what we seeing. Okay? Revelation chapter 13, verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So the principle of divine justice is clear. Evil is self-limiting, you see. Captivity and violence return upon the wicked, see. This is what's going to happen to them. As I said in the last video, I said, man, they can have fun beating up people and killing people. You know, is it at least going to let y'all off in them bunkers when all hell break loose? I don't think so. Okay? Talking about in matter of fact, they probably already in that underground bunker, that city underground already. You know, just overlooking and watching this shit, man, as it transpired. You know, hey man, I watched a video a couple years ago. They showed a city underground. And the only way you can get in through a cave. You know, they had like an entry. You can slide, that motherfucker slide where you can go inside, and then once you get fully inside, you're inside a fucking city, man. Underground. Okay? So, yeah. It said captivity and violence returns upon the wicked. See, the saint must exercise patience, knowing judgment is certain. Faith sustain the elect through persecution. See, we're going to have to go through this persecution. No matter the beast's power, okay, it said no matter the beast's power, YAHAWAH ensures balance. Okay, let's get one more and then we're going to move on. It said, Revelation chapter 13, verse 11, it said, and I beheld another beast come up out of the earth and had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So the second beast symbolizes false religion and ideology. The two horns like a lamb, appearance of innocent and or righteous, speak as a dragon. True intent is satanic deception, so that their left wing and that right wing of the Democratic and Republican Party, two birds of the same feather, and they flock together. At the end of the day, it said, they speak as a dragon when all hell break loose. See, right now, in a minute, they gonna speak as a dragon. Right now, they got this thing going on where they against one another, but when all hell break loose and this devil continue to apply pressure, they gonna switch up, and they gonna go with the power. So we're gonna, hopefully we're gonna be left defenseless. That's why we're gonna need divine intervention. But you gonna have some that gonna fight against this man because they're gonna bring about that civil unrest, that civil war. Okay, that it speaks about in 2nd Ezra 15 to I think it's 18. Let's get that real quick. So we here. Matter of fact, let me do this. 2nd Ezra chapter 15 verses 15, it said, I'm going to start at 14. It said, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. That modern day sword is a gun. It's a handgun, man. And then in his profession, going to be them ICBM missiles. Okay? It said, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor prince, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. See? A man shall desire to go, that's where them ice coming in. Because this thing finna go down real soon. This devil got his own police force through the Fed, the ICE agents and the FBI and all these ATF and all these law agencies. They gonna rock with him. Okay, that's why what's his name? The governor, man, called in the National Guard, man, to protect the people, man. Cause these devils doing they violating the Constitution, which we know that's a farce. They ain't been operating this Constitution. Now all of a sudden they operate it. They trying to exercise their rights. Okay? These motherfuckers, they violating that they ain't thinking about the damn Constitution, man. We're in a lawless time. It says a man shall, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? Because of their pride, see? And the city shall be troubled, and it said the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Okay, so that's where we at. Verse 19, it said, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, Once everything collapsed, like in that last stage, as he was talking about, this is what it's kicking in at. It said, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and the great tribulation. See, the great tribulation gonna be in its perfection. Okay? So let's move on. Let me come out of that and go here. Let's go here. Let me see. What time is it? Okay. So we are here. They get so this system is collapsing. It's a this piece right here is talking about trusting in man collapsing publicly. So scripture teaches that the one of the final signs before judgment, is the complete collapse of trust between the people and those who rule over them. The leaders must constantly justify themselves through propaganda, intimidation, and force. It reveals the legitimacy has already eroded, see? The people begin to sense danger even when they cannot articulate it clearly. This breakdown is not accidental, but divinely permitted exposure. YAHAWAH removes confidence in man before he executes judgment, see? Let's get a precept. What time? Okay, yeah, let's get it. It said, thus saith YAHAWAH, Bahashem YAHAWAH, cursed be the man that trusteth in man and make of flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from YAHAWAH, see? So this verse establishes misplaced trust as a curse, not a mistake. Flesh fails because it is limited and corruptible. Leadership becomes brittle once trust is lost. The Lord allows this collapse to redirect faith. Confidence in system replaces confidence in YAHAWAH Shem YAHAWAH. So that exchange invites judgment. Trust in man all